Fellow citizens and residents of our great nation, I am honored to wish you a joyful and productive 34th anniversary of independence. We have much for which to be thankful. As we cast our eyes around the world, we witness conflict, violence, religious intolerance, war, destruction, and death. Instability is everywhere. Even in the most developed nations, there is racial discrimination, religious intolerance, and unrest. Not so in Antigua and Barbuda. We live in a peaceful culture where human, civil, and political rights are respected and upheld. We live in a country where no child is denied schooling, no ailing person is deprived of medical attention, and no voice is stilled. We live our lives in broad freedom, respectful of each other's religious beliefs, tolerant of each other's political views, and bound by our common aspiration to make our country prosper. As a country, we may be small and weak, but as a society, we are solid and strong. As always, the credit belongs to us all as a people. So on this 34th anniversary of our nation's independence, I congratulate you, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, for your maturity, your good sense, and your loyalty to this land in which we've all been nurtured, and to which we owe a debt of loyalty and love. There's no doubt that our country has made tremendous strides since 1981. Today, I thank everyone, including our nurses, teachers, security forces, professionals, entrepreneurs, skilled and non-skilled workers who toiled to build our beloved homeland. Our forebears have left the present generation a great legacy on which to build. They were united by their common aspiration to build a stronger and more prosperous nation for themselves and for future generations. Notwithstanding differences in our politics, our generation must continue the tradition of our forebears to put the national interests first, resisting all temptations for fleeting partisan political gain. The pursuit of such narrow self-interest is opportunistic and destructive. After many years of decline, it is imperative that we work collectively to recover those losses and to establish a new sustainable platform of economic growth and development for the advancement of our nation. Our vulnerable and fragile economy requires the cooperation of all and the success of our government. That is why my government continues to work unrelentingly for your development with a firm resolve to improve the living standards of all. There is much that we can and will achieve in the years ahead, including the transformation of our country into an economic powerhouse in the Caribbean. But to do so requires hard work, determination, and unity of purpose. It also requires rejecting the false alarms of those who seek to lure our ship of state away from its steady path of progress onto the rocks of calamity on which it previously sat. Those who seek to halt the government's economic recovery program or to derail projects that bring new investment, greater employment, and more revenues harm the prospects for every man, woman, and child in our society. They do so to their detriment, and they certainly do not serve the nation. They serve their narrow political interests. For my part, I'm inspired and motivated by Jeremiah's letter to the exiles, as recorded in our Holy Bible, which says, and I quote, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, plans to give you a future and a hope," end of quote. My friends, 16 months ago, our country's economy was in free fall and had virtually collapsed. Our government inherited a country that was not only broken, but broke. A country in which the central government and virtually every statutory corporation were bankrupt. We inherited a decimated economy which contracted by approximately 25%. Salary payments and pension payments were consistently late. Loans from the People's Republic of China, the IMF, and many others were delinquent, and over $300 million in local supplier credit were unpaid. Many of our hotels were closed, and several were operating with derelict properties. The net effect of this carnage is that over 10,000 of our citizens and residents were put out of work. All of our subscriptions to regional and international institutions were up to 10 years in arrears. Antigua and Barbuda was a land of calamity, gripped by economic distress and social decline. I say this not to shirk from my government's responsibility to fix the calamity we inherited, but to remind the nation of its origin. My government did not create these problems. We inherited them, and we are committed to resolving them. Fortunately, you, the people, decided to set things right. You restored vision to our governance. You replaced vacillating and inept managers with decisive leadership. You helped to reinvent government and made it fit for purpose. Our government is a catalyst for new ideas with opportunity for all and a collective responsibility to grow the economy to allow our people to prosper. Thanks to your intervention, our country has been spared the wrath of total destruction and is stable today. New ideas, new vision, and new purpose have pulled our economy back from the precipice of disaster on which it teetered. Had quick initiatives, such as broadening the citizenship by investment program, not been taken, no government would have been able to maintain full employment in the public sector and to deliver the services the community has a right to expect. The increased revenues from the CIP, even as we tightened the criteria for qualification and instituted more intense due diligence procedures, provided the means to improve the heavy debt service burden and to meet the government's obligations to the people. Similarly, a more responsive approach to investors, both foreign and local, lifted the heavy hand of bureaucracy and procrastination and opened doors that had been closed to investment. In relation to our external alliances with countries such as Venezuela and China, these were reviewed and restructured. We tossed aside a begging bowl that robbed us of our dignity and reduced us to dependent supplicants. In its place, we set out a viable economic paradigm in which donors became our partners in enterprises, from which they derive a financial benefit, while ensuring that the majority ownership and the share of the profits comes to our people. One such enterprise is the West Indies Oil Company Limited, WEOC, which the government bought together with its assets of 220 acres of land for $30 million United States dollars. Then setting aside 130 acres of land, which remained exclusively the people's property, we sold 49% of WEOC for the very $30 million United States dollars that we paid for it. The result is that the people of Antigua and Barbuda now has 51% of the shares, the controlling interests, as well as a call on the largest share of dividends from WEOC. We achieved this without spending 1 cent of taxpayers' money. Additionally, as WEOC expands its tank farm with increased storage capacity next month, approximately 75 new jobs will be created and more revenues will accrue to the country as WEOC expands into a distribution terminal for the Eastern Caribbean. And we still exclusively own 130 acres of land, which was vested in the National Housing and Urban Renewal Company Limited for development. Such is the entrepreneurial knowledge and creativity that has been brought to the governance of our country for the benefit of our people. It is a new model of development, entrepreneurial socialism, in which the state partners with the private sector in a mutual benefit, with the largest part of the benefits going to the people. It is a model that we intend to apply wherever state resources are to be utilized, even as we encourage the private sector to invest independently of government in the productive sectors of our economy. In this connection, you know as well as I do that hotels, resorts are to Antigua and Barbuda what oil is to Arab countries and to Mexico and Venezuela. They are our most precious assets, and they must be jealously guarded to provide the income and employment our people need for their survival and development. Just as the oil-producing countries cannot afford to let the oil production idle, we cannot allow our revenue-producing assets to wither. It is for that reason that the Halcyon Cove is being recovered for productivity and employment. It is also why the present operators of the Royal Antiguan Hotel and Jolly Harbor have been put on notice to overhaul and improve their properties or face the consequence of recovery to the people. Our economy lives by vigorous tourism or dies by tourism's neglect. In this 34th year of our nation's independence, the governance of our country must be geared to reap the greatest benefit for the people from our national assets. We shall not give away our patrimony, nor will we allow them to languish in disrepair. And as for those who interpret this as an assault on private ownership and on private investment, nothing could be further from the truth. There is ample room and the greatest encouragement in our polity for private investment to grow and prosper. For example, right now, great strides are being made by private investors at Prince Point, Harbor Island, and Tamarind Hill in the building of luxury hotel homes and villas for the tourism market. These investments are welcomed and are being fully encouraged, as is the prospective development of a beaches resort by Caribbean entrepreneur Butch Stewart. My fellow citizens and residents, in the 16 months since your new government took charge of our nation's affairs, a new direction has been set, and the springboard for rapid development is being firmly installed. In the coming months, the fruits of this early labor will be harvested. The CIP and WEAC have already been mentioned. You know that we now have the most modern airport facility in the Caribbean. We have also completed the dredging and sweeping of the Deepwater Harbor and will invest a further $200 million United States dollars to redevelop our cruise and cargo ports. This will improve ship access to the port by the new Quantum-class cruise ships. These huge ships, which are scheduled to start calling here in 2017, will bring larger numbers of tourists and bigger spending. Our ambition of building 500 homes is well on the way. As I speak, apart from the houses already constructed, land has been identified and funding allocated for the construction of additional 250 affordable homes across the country. The work at Five Islands is now completed for the location of the State College, the Nurses Training Institute, and the Hospitality Training Center. This complex of educational facilities is the precursor to the University of Antigua and Barbuda, which will be a college of the University of the West Indies. We regard human development as a critical component in our national development. No nation can be truly formed, nor its people genuinely independent and free, unless they are educated and trained to compete with the best in the world. Education and training are therefore key elements in our vision of a vibrant and sovereign nation. At this 34th anniversary of our nation's independence, we are on the cusp of greater things. This year will mark yet another year of growth in our economy after several years of stagnation and decline that our government inherited. Next year will be better as the many projects now in mobilization stage move to implementation. Together as a nation, we stand on the mountaintop of a bright new era. Behind us are the first 34 years of our nationhood, a period of mixed achievement, blighted often by political rivalry, but one in which we showed our capacity to overcome misfortune and stand up with pride in ourselves. Before us is a landscape of great opportunities and grand possibilities. So on this anniversary of our independence, it is right that we should be filled with gratitude and satisfaction for our progress and stability. It is equally right that we should be filled with excitement and expectation at what lies before us. Let us pledge, as a strong and solid society that we are, to grab the opportunities together to rebuild our one nation and to make it great for all who dwell within her shores. Happy Independence, and God bless our beloved Antigua and Barbuda.